So normally on this channel, I typically always talk about daily bias, right, and the daily power of three. In today's video, I'm going to be talking about the H4 and the H1 power of three. So basically just breaking it down a little bit more. Yes, price is fractal for sure. However, the only differences with the H1 and H4 power of three is you're playing in and around the sessions. Okay, so the sessions play a big part in how to go ahead and navigate the power of three here. Okay, so I found an example that I wouldn't even say is the most cleanest example, right? I know a lot of people like to cherry pick examples, and don't get me wrong, I am going quite a few days back in price here. However, this example I think illustrates sort of the dynamic nature of the market, but also how to really sort of just understand how these H4 candles can print, when to look for the expansion, and how to get inside of that expansion. Okay, so this one's going to be a bearish H4 expansion. So we're going to be thinking about, right, position or your position inside of this sort of H4 candle. Okay, now just as sort of a rule of thumb, ideally, yes, you want to be positioned in the top half of the 4-hour candle. Okay, also it sort of depends on how many 4-hour candles you're expecting to be bearish. If you're anticipating sort of two, let's just say two 4-hour candles to be bearish, then you can get away with anticipating price to go lower and maybe getting in a bit lower on this candle. But basically, we're going to talk about, like I said, the 4-hour and the 1-hour. I'm going to show you when to sort of lean on that idea, and also how to know, okay, which is this is the main thing, right? And I spoke about this a bit on the Telegram recently, but basically when you're looking at these expansions on the 4-hour and 1-hour, what your main job is to figure out, right, when you're happy to say that the high of the candle is setting. That's sort of your main job. And again, in this example, I show you a very easy way to navigate that. But basically, once you notice, and even if you relate this back to a daily power of three, right, let's just say you were looking for the daily candle to expand higher, yeah? If you focus on being comfortable and saying, you know what, this makes sense to be the low of the candle, then the expansion, getting behind the expansion is fairly easy, because then you're just looking for some displacement inside of your direction, maybe it leaving an FVG or an order block, and just playing that expansion, riding that expansion up. Okay, you can apply the same thing to the H1 and the H4, but the nice thing about the H1 and the H4 is that you can use the sessions as well. Now, don't get me wrong, you do use the sessions with the daily power of three as well. But where, for example, like you're trading, let's say the New York kill zone block, right? That is a 4-hour period, and so the 4-hour power of three plays a part. Also, again, the 1-hour. So, just to break down this trade, as I always do, essentially, I was looking to be bullish on the week, and again, I post all my outlooks, so this is a prior week, but you would be able to find this, right? Me talking about wanting to see this on the week, the protraction of the week, right? Basically, what I mean is the move lower before the move higher. I wanted to see the low get made or form or price draw to this daily FVG, creating potentially the low of the week, and then for price to run away from this level. Okay. Let me just see, is there any other things I can say about this? No. Okay, fine. That's cool. So then another key factor, sort of a part of my trading plan, is that I want to then see, okay, the hourly or the 4-hour in line with my bias. Okay, and what do I mean by in line? Well, you want to see sort of bearish arrays being respected and bullish arrays being disrespected. So in this case, okay, and also looking at market structure as well. So in this case, we can see we're making lower lows and lower highs, and also we're forming bearish arrays and running away from them. Forming bearish arrays, rejecting them, okay? So I know, cool, order flow is in my favor on both a 4-hour and a 1-hour. I have a clear drawn liquidity, which we can just mark as this low here. We'll just get rid of the FVG, but just remember there is a daily FVG there. And now I'm sort of thinking about how to frame, okay, a short into this level, yeah? So again, I'm always going to use the cycles, right? This cycle is actually a 1st hour continuation cycle, which I can't even remember if I have spoken on this spoken about this cycle on this YouTube video. I won't go crazy in depth because this video is more about the idea of the power of three. But just understand that basically during New York, very simply, I'm just looking for a continuation lower, okay? And I don't mind if the high of the session is created in the first hour of New York, right? If you guys are familiar with my daily cycles, you'll know I have a set time window in which I do want to see the high get made in New York in a classic MY continuation cycle, but this is a first hour continuation cycle, so it's a different cycle, okay? If you're not familiar with my cycles, then ignore that. It doesn't really matter. So I understand that during this 4-hour candle, this next 4-hour candle, which is the 10 to 11 candle, okay, the 11 to 12, 12 to 1, and 1 to 2. So I'm in UK time here, right? So New York session, okay, starts. I'm sorry if some of you guys, this is going to like fry your brain because it's not the normal times that you trade within. But New York session, or New York kill zone, sorry, is between these hours, okay? So half of this 4-hour candle, right? This next 4-hour candle that's going to form, right, is majority of basically of the session. So you can have 2 hours that are going to be in the session and 1 hour basically out. But pretty much what I'm trying to get at is I'm looking for the next 4-hour candle to be bearish because my bias is down, and I'm looking for price to get into this level here. I also know, okay, if we just go to the cycle as well, right, this one isn't the cleanest, but London has attempted to give a run lower. Okay, there are, in this position, like at this point in time, there was a couple of scenarios going off in my head, but let's just assume that you would have said, okay, cool, London's given expansion, I want to see MY continue, right? Because this hourly FEG hadn't been disrespected via the bodies. As long as this FEG is still intact via an hourly closure, I'm then going to be bearish, okay? So obviously I'm not trading for the first 2 hours, right? So let's just see what price does, how does that play out, okay? Just to remind you as well, because maybe you're thinking as well, like, based on this 4-hour candle closing like this, how could I be confident in a bearish move? Maybe why was I not anticipating this FEG? Like I said, all those scenarios are completely valid. Like, I'm not saying I would have known for sure that we were gonna not go ahead and do this, but what I'm about to show you is what the hourly closures do and what happens inside of those, and why that would have led me to have a bearish bias and expect price to respect this hourly FEG and go lower. Okay, so sorry, I know I say a lot of things. It's because I want you guys to understand, like, obviously during when you're taking the trade, there are going to be different factors going in and through your mind, and I'm sort of just trying to account for all of them. Okay, so anyway, let's play along. So we have one candle form, okay, another candle form. So now the following hour is now New York, okay, just to show you what it looks like. It's very choppy, very, very horrible. The only thing that I can say, okay, is that we are respecting this 15-minute FEG, right, via the bodies. Do I know if it's going to be respected? No. The only thing I know at this point is that New York is going to show some sort of speed. So either, in my head at this point, I'm like, cool, we could reach out for that 4-hour FEG, which would have been the ideal scenario. We reach for, it's not even Asia high, we reach for London's high, go ahead and drop lower. That would have been the best case scenario. However, I'm aware of, cool, I'm not going to set a limit there. I'm not going to react to it. I'm waiting for some sort of cycle to form. And I want to see what are we going to do inside of this following hour, basically. There we go. So in this hour, okay, right, if we just mark on the 4-hour open, okay, which is going to be here. Okay, this is really key now. So a couple ways you can go about this, right? And this would be based on how confident you are in bias. So think about what's happened in the life cycle of this 4-hour candle. We've gone ahead, okay, first of all, we respected this hourly level, right? Second of all, we've gone ahead and ran out a previous candle's high. So essentially what that is, imagine we're on the daily time frame right now, right? If you had seen a daily candle sweep and then close lower like this, you'd be biased bearish now, yeah? So to finish off, right, let me just plot to you what the 4-hour candle even looks like right now, or what it would look like if you were watching this. I know people have an indicator for this. I'll just plot it for you because I don't use that specific indicator personally. So obviously my candles are black, so I'm just going to plot it as a black candle. Oh, sorry, like this. Let's go this one. Those lines, make them a bit more evident. There we go. So we have the 4-hour candle. Okay, that's again swept out a previous candle's high. So there was some wick here that got taken out. Price then aggressively expanded to the downside. We then have 1 hour left in price here. Okay, understanding we've just filled an FEG. We've just expanded aggressively, forming an order block. Okay. At this point in time, I am now confident that the high of this 4-hour candle is set in. So I could then be a seller on this next hour, right? Looking for a trade to the downside and looking for an expansion to this low. Okay. So this, I'm just showing you the framework based on the 1 hour only. Right, I'm going to jump down to the 50-minute in a second as well. If I just show you what the 50-minute looks like at this point as well. Okay. I'm going to show you as well. I still believe this entry is viable, and I'll show you in a second why. But again, this fits my rules in terms of a first hour MY continuation, which basically requires an FEG fill, to put it simply. But simply put, we've had Asia run. London, yes, was a bit choppy. It's an attempted move to the downside. And like I said, when New York comes through, right, and opens up, we're going to see some sort of volatility. If we see volatility to the downside after some sort of sweep, then I'm confident to say this is the high of the 4-hour candle. Okay. Let me just put a divider on that as well. There we go. It's the start of the 4-hour candle. This is the 1, 2, 3, 4. There we go. So yeah, it's basically the life cycle of the candle. So because I'm confident in the fact that this high has been put in now, right? What am I doing? Well, you could then look to trade the following hour and anticipate a retracement back into the order block and then a run lower. So let's see what happens. Okay, there you go. What does it do? Taps the order block, runs lower. Okay, so now the 4-hour candle, if I just show you what it looks like after all that, right, and we just delete all this for a second. Right, what did we anticipate? Well, like I said, we knew during New York, which was a kill zone, that we're likely to see speed. We're likely to see some sort of potential manipulation, and then speed to the downside in my desired direction. Okay, because again, it sort of goes off the idea that your draw's correct, but obviously if your draw's correct, then you're all good, yeah? So let me just, I just want to resume back to this idea, right, of where we were. Okay, and you know what, I'm going to just put all that stuff back on. And I hope I broke this down sort of fairly slowly, like to be able to grasp exactly what's going on and why you would be bearish. Again, you don't actually have to conceptualize it as complicated or as complicated as I have. The point is, or what I'm trying to get at is, you want to get to a point where you say, you know what, I'm happy that this 4-hour high is put in. Therefore, anything after this run lower, I'm happy to catch a short inside of. Okay. Now, I'm going to show you, in my opinion, right, you don't actually need to wait for this hourly candle to close. Okay, so this is where my cycle knowledge comes in. So because, right, if we go to the 15-minute here, right, first of all, sorry, just to lay that on, remember the hourly FEG is being respected via the wicks the whole time here. Okay, it's super important. That is the array that I'm thinking, you know what, price can reject and run lower from. And all I'm waiting for is some sort of evidence of that. Okay, so on the 15-minute, right, so 15-minute / 5-minute is normally my sort of entry area criteria, entry time frame criteria. Notice how And again, let me just plot on the life cycle of this 4-hourly candle, and this should just show off exactly what's playing out here. Okay, so we started the hour off, small consolidation. We've then ran out previous hourly high. If you start to think about this again from the daily perspective, it probably makes more sense. So, like I said, I'm expecting aggression during New York session. As soon as we sweep the previous candle's high and run lower on the 15-minute, displacing to the downside. Again, following the fact that we respected the hourly FEG, we've also respected this 15-minute FEG, which is part of my cycle rules. Once we've ran lower, displacing to the downside, forming, okay, equal lows, in my head, I'm like, cool, this high now, this high up here, right, or even, sorry, this high specifically, the high of the 4-hour candle, right, technically it's this wick, but I'm saying this manipulation in my head is like, okay, cool, it's created a high and then run lower, would be the high of the 4-hour candle. So once we get that displacement lower, right, beneath this low, or beneath any of these lows really, then I'm looking for price, okay, to then retrace into a 50-minute FEG and run lower. Okay, so this is basically the trade. Okay, if stop at the high, you could target a 2R. A lot of the time I put SLs at a sort of liquidity there. I would need to get a 2R out of this minimum for me to take it, so I'd probably just extend the TP past the target just to sort of squeeze it in. But yeah, essentially, right, the way this 4-hour candle has set up, we've gone ahead. Yes, you might say, oh, you know what, like, it didn't sweep, it didn't make the high. This is the high of the 4-hour candle. The reason why, again, I actually mentioned to you at the start of this video, this isn't the cleanest example, is because of that. If that wick isn't there, then you can say, oh, you know what, accumulation, manipulation, distribution. But simply put, it still is that. Okay, because if we go back to the 1 hour, sorry, if we go back to the 1 hour there, and I'll just put this in a bit more thicker, hopefully you guys can see that. We have swept out previous candle's high and then propelled lower. Okay, inside of that, even before this level has closed, because we've got that 50-minute displacement and we've built liquidity, and I know where my draw is, as soon as I'm seeing speed in towards my direction, I'm happy to take that trade personally. Okay, let's say you did want to wait for the hourly closure and you wanted to wait for the order block, then no problem. You probably position yourself somewhere inside of here. You potentially might account for the fact that yes, this could be swept. Maybe you have your SL somewhere here. Just depends, obviously, the way you go about and tackle this trade. But again, even if you waited for the hourly closure, completely fine. You still can get in a reasonable trade. I see, yep, around 2-hour area, all good. So again, just all depends on how you look at things, right, and how you want to view price and what sort of confirmations you're waiting for. For me, I play off the cycle predominantly. So this is a 1st-hour continuation cycle, which again, I said I haven't really talked about too much. Basically, typically in a standard NY continuation cycle, I like to see the high get made between 1:30, 1 to sort of 2 o'clock. In this cycle, I basically want to see an FEG fill on a specific set of time frames, and if we do that, then I'm comfortable to say this is going to be the high, and that's how I tackle it personally. But I also think about it from a 4-hour candle perspective and say, you know what, it makes sense for me to say this is the high of the candle and that we then should run lower. Okay, so I hope I have done justice of this setup and I haven't sort of overcomplicated it or rambled too much. I've just tried to really account for any potential questions that you might have, and I've tried to clear up every single thing I can think that someone may ask. That's why you'll notice like a lot of my breakdowns are extremely detailed. Now, obviously, when you're going ahead and trading, like, you want to have your plan set easy. You know exactly what you want to see. I'm just breaking this down from a technical perspective. I'm not breaking this down from my plan written out and how I'm looking at this from my complete plan perspective, if that sort of makes sense. Obviously, that's way more simpler, but I'm trying to basically cater for everyone's sort of technical ability and how they might be looking at it. Okay, so if you guys want any sort of more content from me, then I have a link in the description. It's a 7-day free trial. You can go ahead and get access to a load of my courses, load of my cycles, and you also see me call moves like this, sort of day to day, really, or if I think there's a good setup. Yeah, so anyways, hopefully you guys enjoyed that. If you do have any questions, feel free to ask me, and I'll see you on the next one.